weddings, schools, institutions, bands, choir, singing groups, individuals, and so many more. We use both African prints and foreign fabrics to make your beautiful accessories for you. Oh yeah! Contact us via call or WhatsApp or SMS on 0240 926 564. Locate us at Odoko Official Town opposite Emils Preparatory School. Check us out on social media, Facebook and Instagram at Blue City Fashion. Blue City, creativity and style.
Welcome aboard the safest airline in Africa. With industry-leading safety measures to protect your well-being. The first in Africa to earn a diamond standard of safety. Offering a more contactless, safe, and seamless experience. Delivered with a smile by Africa's first fully vaccinated crew. Creating special memories that bring the joy back to flying, so you can continue making memories with your loved ones. Book your flight with Rwandair today. Rwandair, the safest airline in Africa.
Rwandair, fly the dream of Africa.
Hi, welcome to Sonotech Lab. We work on a wide range of samples, blood, body fluids, and even samples like stool. We work with updated methods and sophisticated equipment just to bring you the most accurate results in the best time possible.
Blue City is a manufacturer and supplier of high-quality fashion accessories. We design and make quality bow ties, flying ties, lapel pins, ladies' brooches, fabric necklaces, African wares, and so much more for your weddings, schools, institutions, bands, choir, singing groups, individuals, and so many more. We use both African prints and foreign fabrics to make your beautiful accessories for you. Oh yeah! Contact us via call or WhatsApp or SMS on 0240 926 564. Locate us at Odoko Official Town opposite Emils Preparatory School. Check us out on social media, Facebook and Instagram at Blue City Fashion. Blue City, creativity and style.
Welcome aboard the safest airline in Africa. With industry-leading safety measures to protect your well-being. The first in Africa to earn a diamond standard of safety. Offering a more contactless, safe, and seamless experience. Delivered with a smile by Africa's first fully vaccinated crew. Creating special memories that bring the joy back to flying, so you can continue making memories with your loved ones. Book your flight with RwandAir today. RwandAir, the safest airline in Africa.
RwandAir, fly the dream of Africa.
In Ghana. So say, welcome. Thank you. I think this year we've not had you. It's been a while.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Let's delve straight into business. When you want to rent, what should be the first thing to come into your mind as a tenant?
Okay.
Yeah.
So, if it comes to mind that you don't have your own apartment, you don't have your own accommodation, the only thing for you is to rent.
Yeah.
But to rent, you need a place that you can feel comfortable, a place that is tenantable. So the first thing you have to look for is where I'm going to search for. Is it a place I can live there comfortably? Okay. Is it a place that is tenantable? Is it a place that when it rains, I cannot go out or I cannot come into my room? So the first thing you have to do as a tenant or as a prospective tenant is to do some due diligence. Do some investigation about the area you want to, or you've spotted to go and dwell in. So when you get the place, also you have to make sure that the person you are going to depart money to, the person you are going to pay, is the rightful owner of the place.
Okay.
So the first thing is to ask around whether the place is conducive for you to stay there. And if it is, the person who is calling him or herself a landlord or a landlady, you should ask about the credibility of that person.
If indeed the person is
the person is the landlord.
Okay.
So these are basic things you need to know before you give money to somebody.
Now, as a landlord or as a landlady, you need to, if it's a new house, you people indicated, or your department indicates that you need to come to the rent control. They're going to assess the building and give you a good price, or otherwise, if the price is supposed to be moderate or any other thing, before you give it out.
Okay.
But before then, what should be the rights of that landlord or the landlady?
Okay. So, just as you mentioned, there are some four fundamental obligations that a landlord should hold before giving his or her apartment or accommodation to somebody. Okay. The first is what we call the assessment certificate, as you rightly mentioned. That assessment certificate will give you the power to advertise your premises after considering renting that premises out. So when you get the assessment certificate, after the assessment has been done by the rent officer or the magistrate, the assessment certificate is given to you. You have the right now to tell any agent that I have a vacant premises to rent out, or we can also input in our database at the Rent Control Department in our vacant premises register. So when you get somebody who is willing to accommodate him or herself in your apartment, you should make a tenancy agreement available. This is a basic agreement between you, the landlord or the landlady, and the person who wants to dwell in your apartment, because that includes the rights and responsibilities of you, the landlord or the landlady, and then the rights and responsibilities of the tenant who is coming to dwell in the apartment. The rent, which is the money the person is going to pay, will be indicated in that tenancy agreement. The frequency of payment, whether it's going to pay monthly, it's going to pay a maximum of 6 months, will be indicated in the tenancy agreement. You need witnesses to be and to sign on that tenancy agreement. Normally one for the landlord and then one for the tenant. So basically 2. If you can have more, fine. People just to witness your transaction. And again, the issue about the rights and responsibility we've talked about, the issue about witnesses we've talked about, the issue about the rent, and then the frequency of payment, the commencement date of the tenancy and the end date, so that it will not be that the tenants are saying this tenancy, then it's asking for extra 3 months free grace period. Those things all should be. So
these are basic things that should be in the tenancy
agreement. Should be in the tenancy agreement. We call them the ingredients of the tenancy agreement. So they are basic. If they are not there, then it's not a tenancy agreement, because the commencement date and then the end date, if it's not there, then it's not a tenancy agreement. So the landlord should have this tenancy agreement ready before putting the premises out. Okay, when the person signs, then the law requires under Section 4 of the Rent Control Law that the landlord has to register this tenancy agreement with the Rent Control Department, where we will know you are the landlord and then the tenants you brought into your apartment, so that in future when there is any grievances, we already know you. And again, when you finish registering and we stamped it, because the agreement should not be any fictitious agreement. Okay. Fictitious in the sense that you are putting some pressure on the person who is coming to lodge in your premises, or agreement which cannot be enforced, because the agreement has to be in line with the constitution of our country. It has to be in line with the rent control law. It even has to be in line with the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, because the agreement is not an imposition you are going to impose on somebody, but it's a mutual agreement that you are signing between yourself and the tenant. So you shouldn't infringe on somebody's human right. So we check all these things, then we approve it for you before the law allows you even to go and collect money from the person. When you collect the money, the law says that instantly you have to give receipt. So that it will not be that I've given you 5 CDs. No, you gave me 4 CDs. That will take away that misunderstanding from them. Then when the receipt is issued.
So you are saying that every landlord or every landlady must have a receipt? A receipt.
Just any ordinary receipt. It should be with you, because you are transacting a business. And if money has been given to you, you need to indicate to the person who has given the money to you and the purpose for which the money has been given to you. And the one major important issue is the payment of rent tax. Okay. A lot of landlords are just running away from this. The law under Section 115 of the Income Tax Act mandates every landlord who has collected any rent advance to run to the Ghana Revenue Authority and pay what we call the rent tax. If it's a dwelling, a normal dwelling house where people sleep, you pay 8% of the rent advance that has been paid to you, or 15% if it's a commercial venture. So landlords should take note. If they don't know,
which is
like a place where they sell hotels and all those things, where commercial activities goes on there, you pay 15%. So landlords should assist the government so that all of us will grow as we develop our country. That 8%, you see it as very big, but you are also contributing to the development of our country. So landlords should take note and then do that.
Is that a reason why when there's an issue in various houses, the rent control can come in?
Yeah, rent control, you see, is an establishment that has been set out by the government to make sure that private dwelling houses, when there's any grievances between the landlord and the tenant, the first point of call should be the Rent Control Department. You have the right to go to the court directly, But because of the processes and procedures of our court, rent control will be a very minimal place that you can fast track your thing. So rent control is a mandatory department that has been established by the government to deal specifically with grievances between landlords and tenants.
What should be the terms of payment?
Okay, so the terms of payment should be enshrined in the agreement, that the tenancy agreement that the two of you signs. Okay, so when it comes, that's what I mentioned, the frequency of payment. Will it be a monthly payment? Will it be a maximum of 6 months payment? How often will I pay? If I default for a month, what will happen? All those things must be in the tenancy agreement. So it will be between the two of you, actually.
According to the law,
yes.
What should be the period of payment? Is it
okay.
Yearly basis, quarterly basis, or 2-year basis?
Okay.
What should it be?
Okay, so there are two types of tenancies. We have the short tenancy and then the long tenancy. The short tenancies are tenancies which are below 6 months. Okay, and within the law, that is the Rent Act 1963 Act 220. If it's a short tenancy, the law requires that the landlord should collect monthly rent advance. So you pay monthly till the end of your short tenancy, which is below 6 months. If it's a long tenancy, which is beyond 6 months, it can go 2 years, 5 years and above. But in that case, the law demands that you collect a maximum of 6 months rent advance till the end of the tenancy. Okay. So any landlord who is dwelling or going in between a long tenancy should know that the law demands that you should collect a maximum of 6 months rent advance until the end of the tenancy.
So you are saying that you need to sign, if you are living in the house for 3 years, you need to sign for the 3 years.
You can sign the 3 years,
but
5 years.
You don't have to pay for.
Yeah, it's your right as a tenant not to pay more than 6 months rent advance if you are living in somebody's premises for a long term above 6 months. That's what the law says under section 25 subsection 5 of our Rent Act 1963.
Now let's come back to our day-to-day activities. Okay. This is an issue where you have a land somewhere.
Exactly.
You've got someone to give you a loan of a certain amount to put up that place.
Yes.
Now you need money to pay back the person.
Yeah.
How does this 1 month aid in you paying back?
Okay. So you see, the issue is that there's no bank that when you go for a loan will collect 2 years repayment terms. It's a monthly payment terms that all banks will require from you. So if you are taking 6 months, you are taking monthly. At the end of the day, you can take some percentage and go and pay your loan. In any case, recruiting your investment in the building cannot be a 2 years or a 5 years business. Recruiting is a long-term. The building is a long-term investment, which will take more than 20 years for you to pay. So if you collect the 2 years and you squander it, you consume it even before the money comes, then that's where, when the tenant is there, you'll be pushing the tenant, what we call inducement. You'll be inducing the tenant to move away because somebody is standing at your back who wants to pay more rent, so that you can balance or give the rent a balance to the person, so that you can still, and then you continue doing the illegality. But when you consider 6 months, and even that period, something happens within the period, you can just run about and get the 6 months if the person has not stayed there for a while, or if the person has stayed there for 3 months, or even you can run and get. But if you collect 2 years and something happens, or the person is being moved to another jurisdiction for his work, now you have to struggle to get the 1.5 years or even the 2 years before you refund the money. So there are good reasons why this 6 months rent advance payment is there. It's for the benefit of all of us. Let's ask ourselves, how many Ghanaians are being paid to get a 2 years rent advance every 2 years to go? You know, it's making our youth in debt even before they start life. Because you go for a loan, your 2 years will not reach, another landlord will come for it. Even if you have not finished paying the previous loan you contracted, then you go and contract another loan. So always you'll be in debt. But landlords should take note. We are just, the investment you put in your buildings. You are to help the housing deficit to come down. But you cannot use illegality to get money. Okay, let's follow the due process. If you have any concerns, rent control is there. We are trying to review the law. So if you have a strong consent, bring it on board. There will be a discussion between us and stakeholders. So that if it comes to mind that all of us as Ghanaians, we want to move to 1 year, we want to move to 2 years. It's a collective agreement or it's a collective decision that all of us have taken. But for now, the law says don't take more than 6 months if it's a long-term tenancy. Let's abide by it until the laws are changed.
So with the amendment of this current law,
Yeah.
would you say or would you think
Yeah.
that this 1 year thing would come to play instead of the 6 months?
No, just as I mentioned, it's a proposal that was made. We are going to have stakeholders meeting. Everybody opinion will come on board. And if it comes that all of us want to move to 1 year, why not? It's a collective decision that the country wants to take. So it will be abided by.
So even after your 6 months payment, the first 6 months,
Yeah.
the landlord or the landlady comes back to tell you, I need money for this purpose or that purpose. And so if you have another amount somewhere, pay in advance and then let's carry it, I mean, forward or something. Is that feasible?
No, that's between the two of you. If it's a loan you are giving to the landlord based on your next rent advance payment, it's an agreement between you and the landlord. But you are not obliged to do it because the law says that the landlord should not put any condition attached to the rent is collecting from you. So if willingly you want to give that loan to the landlord, be to attach it or peg it towards your next rent advance payment, it's between the two of you. I want to stress again that you are not obliged as a tenant to give that loan to the landlord.
You would hear most tenants complaining about the issues of utility.
Okay.
That is this landlady or is this landlord actually paying some of the water bill?
Yeah.
Because you go into a house, the bill is brought. Most tenants will not even see the bill.
Okay.
But there is a cut for you to pay.
Yeah.
You pay this amount and then it is paid to the Ghana Water Company or whoever is in charge. What are the rules for paying of utilities?
Okay. In general terms, the light or the water is not a produce of the landlord.
Okay.
It's a facility that all of us as Ghanaians have to enjoy. So when the bills come through the landlord, it's supposed to show it to everybody who is using that utility. So when you show it to everybody, and we know the amount that is on it, and we know the gadgets we are using individually, we share it accordingly. In most serene atmosphere, the landlord gives that responsibility to a trusted tenant in the house so that that tenant will deal with the other tenant, including the landlord, if he's also dwelling in that premises. So landlords can depart themselves from this thing so that people can trust them. But if you want to administer that utility business, make sure you show the bills to everybody if it passes through you so that there will be fairness. But tenants who don't see their bills can come to rent control. We've been solving a lot of such
the bill, but you are counted as, if you have, including yourself, maybe you are 5 in a room, you are counted per head.
Okay.
And so if one person is 10 cedis, it means that the people occupying that room, be it 5 in number or 10 in number, you are paying 100 cedis.
Okay. Okay, so the same thing should apply to the landlord if the landlord or the landlady is dwelling in the same premises. It shouldn't be that you allocate this amount to us and then you and your family will be exempted from this bill. It's not right. So those who are going through such things can come to the rent. Just as I mentioned, we'll be able to solve such problems. We'll be able to tell the landlord their responsibilities and their rights as far as these utility issues are concerned.
Have you had instances where people come to your end to report cases of outrageous laws or rules in particular houses?
Yes, so that's what I mentioned, that before even you collect money from somebody, the tenancy agreement must be registered. If you don't register it and there's any grievances and we call for the tenancy agreement, we set it aside and we take the constitution.
Like coming home after 10 p.m. and you are a journalist like myself.
Those are infringing on people's fundamental human rights. Okay. Basically, because I should be free to live. If you feel that it's a threat because of thieves, make a allocation of a separate key to that person. Okay. So that anytime he can come, because there are emergency situations I cannot be coming to knock on your door as a landlord or a landlady to disturb your privacy. Okay, so make allocation of a separate key for me so that when I'm coming, I can come in and go out anytime I want. But you can't infringe on my human right that I should specifically by 10 o'clock I should be in bed. You can't do that. Okay, so
we don't pound fufu after 6.
those are the things. Those are the things. So if you know because of your health situation, nobody should disturb you at this particular, then let it be in the tenancy agreement so that if the tenants come and he knows that, no, I cannot abide because I'm this kind of tribe, I eat this thing at this particular date, and this is the process I follow. And because of your condition, I cannot abide by it. I will go somewhere else. But I cannot collect my money and then come out with rules and regulations that I cannot abide by. Yeah.
How about agents? Who are agents, and are they recognized by the law?
Okay. So the current Rent Act 1966 recognizes agents. The recognition there is that we understand the role they are playing in bringing the housing deficit down by introducing prospective tenants to vacant premises. But the law at that point, the provision in that act states that when you lead somebody to go and find an accommodation, the landlord is supposed to give you 5%. You don't have the right to collect 10% from the prospective tenant and then go before the landlord and collect another 10%, which is unlawful. What is interesting now is there's a new act that is being enforced. A governing body has been constituted who are coming with some of the regulations that will govern these agents and then brokers. What this law is going to do is that, or what when the board is going to come out is that they are going to train all these agents, all these brokers, and then they will be licensed. So that if you are a landlord, or sorry, if you are an agent or a broker, and you lead somebody to go and find an accommodation, and the board has stipulated that you are to be given 5% or 7%, and you go about collecting more than that, easily they will just collect the certificate or the license from you and take your name from the list of accredited agents or brokers, so that when somebody wants to get in contact with you and your name is not on the list, you'll be losing job. We understand it's a nice job they are doing, but they should abide by the rules and regulations. Currently, what I just want to state again, that is the landlord who contracted you to go and look for a prospective tenant. That's why you
so
put
who should pay the 10%?
the 5. It's not 10%. It's 5%.
It's not 10%.
It's not 10%.
But agents take 10%.
That is unlawful. That's why this law has come. The Real Estate Agency Act has come into place so that they will be trained to know their responsibility, to be trained to know what they are supposed to do, so that when they go about collecting unapproved fees, just as I mentioned, their certificate will be taken or their license will be taken from them. So since it's the landlord who has contracted you to go and look for prospective tenant, that's why you put your billboard there, rent, house for rent. If you don't know any house which is vacant, you wouldn't put that prescription that there's house for rent.
Yeah.
So that landlord has given you the authority to go and look for somebody. So when I pay my rent advance as a tenant, then the landlord is supposed to take 5% of that rent advance that I've paid and give it to you as a commission for the business.
Tenant.
And not the tenant, not the prospective tenant.
How about the fact that you need to pay a certain amount?
They call moving fee.
Hold on to that. I like the term. I was about mentioning it, but let's go for a quick turn. When we come back, we are going to discuss what agents term as the moving fee and then the amount actually involved in that. After the break. Thanks so much for staying with us. You're still watching Regulators here on Adwa Television. Don't forget we're streaming live on Facebook, Adwa TV Ghana. Our phone lines are activated. Please do well to call when you call. Lower the volume of your television set and speak to us. You can speak Ghana, you can speak Twi, you can speak English, but most precisely English. So we're talking about the moving fee.
Yes.
An agent will not get up or wake up from his house and decide to follow you unless you pay that amount. That amount exceeds sometimes 20 cedis.
Okay.
So anytime he is taking you around to search for a place, he takes that amount.
Okay.
Is it mandated by law?
It's unlawful. Just as I mentioned, as an agent, you should know the vicinity within you. You don't need to take car from Accra to Tema going to show somebody a vacant premises.
Okay.
Okay. So it should be a walking distance because you are in the locality and you know the vacant premises in the locality. So these are unlawful things. Just as I mentioned, just going to show somebody in the locality a vacant premises and the person likes the place and the person pays the rent advance, then the landlord who has contracted you will give you that 5%. You cannot take somebody to a landlord who has not contracted you to go and look for somebody because you don't know the advert the person has also done. Okay, so when you take somebody to unauthorized, as I will call it, unauthorized landlord who has not authorized you to go and look for a place, and the person comes and pay, you don't expect that landlord to give you any money because he has not sent you. So agents should know, should operate within their localities so that this issue about moving fees will be cut down. Just as I mentioned, very soon the board is working assiduously to come out with the regulations that will guide these agents and then the brokers in this housing industry.
Who are the board members? Which departments are they coming from?
No, it was constituted by the president, okay? And it cast across some serious organizations like the Land Commission, Bank of Ghana, and even Surveyors Department Association. They are serious-minded people who are coming to enforce.
I think we have a caller. Hello, good evening, Mensa. Thanks so much for joining us.
Good evening. Yeah, I'm calling from Kumasi.
You're calling from Kumasi. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
You have an issue?
I'm enjoying your program.
Okay.
I'm really enjoying it. I have a question.
Can you go ahead?
Recently, I gave a room to somebody. Then he stayed in for 6 months. He's supposed to stay in for about 3 years. Then within 6 months, he said he's not interested. So I should refund his money to him. I refunded the money to him and I said, I will calculate the 6 months and deduct from, because I'm staying for 6 months.
Yeah.
Then he said, no, I did not provide tenancy agreement for him. And I said, we sat down, then we agreed. Although, whilst you are in, you are still bargaining that I should reduce it for you. So we haven't finished bargaining. So all of a sudden, you said you are leaving. So why should I refund all the money? You are staying for 6 months. So that's 6 months. What are you trying to tell me? So that's my problem.
Okay.
So should I refund the whole amount for him so that the 6 months has been saying it becomes free, or I have a right to deduct that amount from him?
Interesting. Thank you so much. We'll do all to answer that. Hello, Matilda. Thanks so much for joining us. Hello.
Hello, good evening.
Yes, good evening, Matilda. Thanks so much for joining us.
Well, please, there's a little problem I'm having with a tenant that my mother brought to her house.
Okay.
And for almost, I think, a year now, the man is not paying his rent. And she wants the man to move out of the house, but the man refused to move from the house. And as I'm talking to you now, currently it's a family house, and that's the only room that she rented for the man. But currently, there's a funeral in the house, and the man has been asked to move out of the house, but he has refused to move out from the house. So I was even advising her or suggesting to her that if she can go to the rent control so that they will help her out to know what she should do. But we all don't know what to do because even though we asked the man to move, he has refused to move from the house. And he claims that a brother has borrowed money from him, so he won't move. But meanwhile, he didn't rent the place from the brother. He rented the place from my mom, and the place doesn't belong to the brother, it belongs to my mom. So what should we do in regards to this? Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Matilda. I'll do well to take your number from the producer, and then Mr. Kwasu can speak to you after that. Hello, Kofi. Good evening. I understand you're calling from Obuasi. Oh, Kofi, please do well to call us again. Mr. Kwasu, please can we answer these?
Yes.
Two
So
questions
my
first?
friend from Kumasi,
Yeah.
there's no free rent.
Okay.
There's no free rent.
You rented for
That's
3
the
years.
yeah. You
You spent
rented for
6
3 years. You
months. You don't
spent for
want to.
6 months. The 6 months should be deducted.
Okay.
So my friend, deduct the 6 months. If he doesn't understand, report him at the rent control department, where we'll put him right that there's no free rent.
Do you have a location of the rent control department in Kumasi?
Yeah, we have about
Okay.
9 offices
Okay.
within
Kumasi.
the Kumasi, the Ashanti region.
Okay.
So I cannot, but go to any of the district assemblies or the
You
metropolitan
find them
assembly,
there.
you will find our offices there. And Matilda, just as you rightly said, you proceed to the rent control department. We'll follow the due process and then investigate, do some little investigation, look at the other side of the person
story.
who is also staying there, and then where we will put things right for you. So you move to the rent control department. We'll call the two of you to our office, and then we'll do our
Settle
investigation
amicably.
and then settle amicably. Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
But how can you stay in someone's room for 6 months? You actually paid for 3 years. You want a reduction.
Yeah.
You've not gotten that. You want to move out.
Yeah.
Who pays for the 6 months? You want to take it for free.
Yeah, so that is the yeah, because there is no tenancy agreement, so
see,
everything is not and void.
Sometimes
No.
the landlords also have a role to play in
Yeah,
this.
yeah.
Mensa, I understand you are calling from Takwa. Thanks so much for joining us.
Good evening.
Yes, good evening.
My problem is, at times, the tenant will have a condition with you.
Mm-hmm.
He has paid his rent, and then he wanted to move out.
Okay.
His rent hasn't expired. At times, the landlord, they refuse to refund the money to the tenants. So what happened to this?
Okay. Have you faced a similar problem?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. You do want to answer that.
Okay. So just as I mentioned, there is no free rent. And because anything can happen within the tenancy, that's why there should be clauses in the tenancy agreement as to what will happen if certain happens. Okay?
Okay.
If illegally you've collected 3 years rent advance from somebody and the person has stayed there for 6 months, you are supposed to refund the 2.5 years to the
What is
person.
left?
And again, I've signed an agreement to stay in your apartment for 2 years. I've paid you 6 months block. I've stayed there for 3 months. It's left to 3 months. You are supposed to give me a refund because I've not stayed there for the rest of the period. So you are mandated to refund the period the person has not stayed in your premises, and then keep the period the person has stayed in your premises. That's why the 6 months rent advance is very useful.
Okay.
So that you can just run here and here, then
then
get
give it out.
give it out to the
Interesting.
person. Yeah.
Kofi, good evening. I understand you're calling from Obuasi.
Good evening, my sister. My problem is that I want to ask your guest about this issue, the 6 months rent issue that they brought to us.
Okay.
Is it working? Has it been suspended, or does it have some months or years ahead of us to operate? Or another question is that is it that whatever the landlord writes on the paper as a what do you call it? As a yes
Agreement.
agreement. Thank you for that. As an agreement, is it legitimate to the rent control, or is it that he himself has his own rights and his own laws to his house?
Okay.
And 3, do we have something like if you go to a rent control for any issue on a letter, do you have to pay something, or do you have to pay something for the rent control department? Or I want to answer for that. Thank you.
Are you a tenant or a landlord?
I'm a tenant.
Okay. Aspiring to be a landlord, right?
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much.
Okay. So, Uncle Kofi, the 6 months rent advance payment has been in our law since 1963. It's in the Rent Act, the Act 220. And what we've realized, which will take part of the blame, is that the kind of sensitization program we were to do for people to know what is in the law, we were not able to do it. But for the past 3-4 years, we've intensified our sensitization program. A lot of landlords have started taking monthly. People have started taking 6 months rent advance. So it's in force. It's in force. Secondly, the tenancy agreement that the landlord will come out with, just as I mentioned, after it has been signed, it has to be registered at the rent control department for us to scrutinize it, go through it, and make sure the tenant is not going to be, nobody is going to infringe on his human rights. Okay? And then the terms and conditions are in line with our constitution. They are in line with the Rent Control Act or the Rent Act. And then the last point is that Parliament and the Ministry of Finance has approved fees and charges for the department and other agencies. So most of our services are not free. You pay for some of our services. So it's not absolutely free.
Which service would we have to pay
when
for?
you make a complaint to the rent control, based on the complaint, there are fees and charges that you pay. I don't have the list here, so I don't want to commit myself. Okay. But you pay fees and charges based on the sum or the grievances you bring to the rent control department. Okay, so just like the court, when you go in there, you pay filing fees. Okay, so it's the same thing applies to the rent control. So let's say
basically you're paying for filing fees.
You pay for filing fees, but there's another case we call as corner case, which is different from just filing, because those extra services will be deployed to make sure we force open your door for you. There are fees we have to pay to the court to give us order for all those things. So there are variation of fees and charges that we collect at the rent control department.
Interesting. I would want us to talk about evictions, but let's answer Albert. Albert, good evening.
Fine evening, sir.
How are you doing?
By grace.
Okay. Are you a tenant or a landlord? Hello?
I'm a landlord, but I'm a tenant to somebody too. I'm not staying at my place.
Okay. Thank you so much. What do you have for us? Albert, what do you have for us?
My problem is I don't think the rent laws are working.
Okay, why would you say that? What is your reason?
The reason being so the government is saying.
Albert, please, I have a little problem. Can you lower the volume of your TV set? Okay. I can hear myself. Okay, so let's go ahead.
The problem is that the government is saying 6 months. By the minister are giving them 4 years advance. So to me, that law is not working.
Okay, thank you so much. We do want to answer that.
You're welcome.
Okay. This issue of 3 years advance and 2 years advance and 4 years. Very soon, I think we would have to clock 5 years advance, because people are coming out with so many plans of getting money from tenants.
They are just putting all their problems on their investment. Exactly. But the issue is that when you finish collecting the money, you have to wait for that period before you collect another one. And that's where the inducements comes in, because somebody will come and stand at this back. Maybe I've paid 500. The person will come down, I'll pay 700. If he accumulates it, he can see that he can balance you and then push you away. So let's be careful about the problems we want to put on our burden. A lot of them put problems on themselves, because when the pressure starts coming for a refund of money, then you find yourself wanting. Okay, so collect the 6 months, and then when something happens, at least you can quickly run around and give the person his or her money,
and then move.
Because just as I mentioned, a lot of things can happen within the tenancy period. So all these things must be taken into account when collecting money from somebody.
Now, tell us about the eviction notices and the period involved. But someone is calling from Koforidua. Hello, good evening. Thanks for joining us.
Hello.
Yes, good evening. Thanks for joining us. Your name and where you're calling from? Oh, I know you're calling from Koforidua.
So your name. From Koforidua.
Okay, thank you so much.
I have problem with the rent control.
Okay.
I can say that I'm a landlord, but I think I'm a tenant. I rented my apartment for a certain guy. He was a Nigerian also. They will not sweep. They will not clean. Actually, they will not clean. They will just they will mess the whole place up. And even if you tell them that they should get someone to clean for them monthly, for them to be paid, they will not accept that. They don't pay water bill. They don't pay like they don't want to pay any of the utilities. Later, they moved out, and then the bills that they left for me to pay. You know, if I'm telling you, then we went to rent control, and in fact, I was very disappointed with the rent control people. Even it was about to come to a fight, and then a guy came out and said I should just take time for them to solve the problem. They will tell you, go and come tomorrow. Oh, you people will be attending to this place and tomorrow. Then call the guy to come. Then the guy will call them and tell them you will not have time to come and listen to anything. So, in fact, actually, if the rent control, they could build houses for people to rent, I think it will be the best for all of us. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Okay. Who pays for the damages incurred or caused in a particular house?
Okay. So the issue is that you as a tenant, you are not supposed to cause nuisance and annoyance, okay? You are not supposed to use somebody's premises for immoral and illegal purposes. So if it's up to you to clean somebody's house as a member of the household and you don't do that, then you are causing annoyance. So this, my friend from Koforidua, you know, there were some basic things you should have done, okay? The first thing is to issue the person with tenancy agreement. You are not supposed to collect more than, as I mentioned, today somebody called me that a landlord is pushing him to pay in foreign currency. When we see the foreigners, we ignore our local people, okay, because we think they can pay more. But instantly or initially when the person starts to cause annoyance, you should have gone to the rent control department for us to start the processing, and if he has to be evicted, we do that.
Mr.
But if you
I
wait till the end of the
even if
term,
it is at the end of the term for you to go to the rent control,
it
should be enough reason for anybody in that position to do something about the issue.
Yes, so that's what I'm saying. If the person is called and the person does not attend, the next process is to get court order and then push the case to court.
Court order or police order to go and arrest
No, the police has nothing to do with rent issues. Our next point is the magistrate. Okay. Police will not come in until there is an illegality or criminal activity within the sector. But if there are no criminal or no illegal purposes within the period, the next point is the magistrate. So if you don't come to us early for us to start the process to make sure that we collect all the debt the person has left on your head, and you come out and blame the department, I will not accept it as a member of the department, because what you were supposed to do, you didn't do it well. Okay, this is the issue. When the person starts to cause nuisance and annoyance, you should first move to the rent control department, and then let's start the legal process before the end of the time. But if the person has collected his belongings out now before you bring it to us, even you don't have any contact apart from the person, if the person switches his phone off, who else are you going to collect? But in the rent card, there's a provision for us to give a guarantor's number or a witness number, so that even if the person runs away, we can hold the person responsible. I'm sure this Koforidua guy did not do any of these things. Okay, so if you don't do any of these things as a oblige on you, and then you want to put off the load on rent control, I agree with him that government has to come out with this social and then affordable housing. But there's this issue about private sector who can partner government, because there are a lot of land banks available, that free land in quote, that as a private person you can come and partner government and build this social and affordable housing so that we can give it to our people to dwell in. What is also interesting in this coming with the National Rental Assistance Scheme, which is going to support those who can be guaranteed of monthly deduction, so that government can loan this rent advance to them and then gradually deduct from their salary. So we are trying. We are trying.
Thank you so much for your time and for your education. But this is a press release from the National Road Safety Authority, not Commission. So this one says the National Road Safety Authority press release for immediate press release here. NRSA expresses disquiet over weekend crashes. The authority regrets the number of road traffic crashes recorded last weekend. 4 separate road crashes occurred in the Eastern Oti and Greater Accra regions, leading to 17 reported deaths with several cases of injuries among others. Preliminary investigations indicate that excessive speeding, wrongful overtaking, inattentiveness, disabled vehicles, and fatigue are the critical contributory factors to the crashes recorded. National Road Safety Authority expresses its condolences to the family of the deceased persons and wishes the injured a speedy recovery. Consistent with policy, the authority has commissioned investigations into the crashes. In the interim, the authority is scaling up the Stay Alive campaign for 2022 and the related media and outreach programs. Further, road safety inspectors have been deployed at major transport terminals to ensure compliance to road safety directives on 2 drivers per long distance route and the use of vehicle logbooks, among others. To complement these efforts, the authority appeals to the Inspector General of Police for an increased presence of the police on high risk corridors to help enforce traffic regulations, including excessive speeds by drivers. The authority has noted that despite the frequent occurrence of the road traffic crashes, its resultant injuries and deaths have declined by 3.7% and 9.2%, respectively, in the month of January and February 2022 as compared to the same period in 2021. However, the last few days have seen a rise in crashes, which may not necessarily mean a rise in crashes or crisis situation. The authority calls for calm and support from the public for the operationalization of its mandates and implementation of existing strategies to improve the road safety situation. Issued today signed by the Corporate Affairs Unit, National Road Safety Authority. Our condolences to all the bereaved people and then their family. Please kindly give us your last words before we go on, right?
What we want to tell Ghanaians, especially landlords,
okay,
we understand your support in bringing the housing deficit down. But please, there are rules and regulations for the game.
Yeah.
So let's abide by it so that we all enjoy our country as we live in. If you induce somebody, if you exploit somebody, remember your child who is closer to any university will also go through the same process. So let's abide by the rules of the game. There are various reasons and then nice reasons why these laws have been carved. So let's abide by them. And again, we will be coming out to meet all stakeholders in reviewing the new act. So let's prepare as organization, landlords association, tenants association. Let's get ready. We'll be engaging you so that we'll come out with a reviewed law, which all of us will have an input into it. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much for your time and your dedication. Thank you so much, you who watched at home and all our callers. Thank you so much, my producers and the technical crew. Thank you so much. God bless you for your time. Coming away same time next week, Monday. Before then, enjoy the rest of our programs. And